ministers, chair, distinguished guests, visiting friends, former colleagues, and all of you. It gives me a great pleasure, and it's actually an honour for me to be welcoming you here to this event tonight, co-chaired or co-convened really by the Policing Board and the Police Service. So you are all most welcome to Belfast on this lovely autumnal evening. I would echo the Chair's welcome actually to the ministers that are here tonight. For us, we don't take that for granted, and we think that it is important that policing stays out of politics, but that politics is engaged in policing. And I think that this is it's good to see that level of executive support for this event. I'm conscious too that some colleagues have travelled some distance to be with us tonight and will be participating during the event later and indeed into tomorrow. So thank you for that. And for some former colleagues, I saw Judith Gillespie running about somewhere earlier. People who have been, there she is, hi Judith, who have been on the journey with us and have made a massive contribution to the journey, not just Judith, but other colleagues as well. It is good to renew those acquaintances. So I guess when I started out in policing over 30 years ago, an occasion such as this was almost unimaginable. The fact that a discussion on policing in Northern Ireland can bring such a broad group of people together in a positive and a meaningful way is symbolic of the journey that we've all travelled and the progress that has been made, especially over the last 15 years. The title for the conference of Reflecting and Refocusing was carefully and thoughtfully chosen. 15 years on from the symbolic changes that gave life to the police service of Northern Ireland, it is appropriate, therefore, to pause for a moment and reflect on where we've come from, or what we have learned, before turning our attention to the challenges and the opportunities ahead. On the 4th of November 2001, a day I remember well, the Police Service of Northern Ireland was established. On the same day, the Policing Board was set up. 3 days later, the Policing Board met in public for the first time. Almost a full year earlier, the Police Ombudsman's Office, and it's good to see Dr Maguire here as well with us this evening, but the Police Ombudsman's Office had been established almost a year earlier. 2003, a year later roughly, we had the first human rights monitoring framework for policing, and that was published. So within a period of just over 3 years, accountability and human rights had been firmly established as the new paradigm for policing. That's what the transformation in policing was all about. Accountability and human rights are the foundations for good policing, for effective policing. And as we reflect back over the last 15 years, I think we can be proud of how we have built on those strong foundations that people who went before us had established. The result has been a transformation in policing and a broad acceptance of the policing structures right across our communities that we serve, something that would have been unimaginable when I joined the police back in 1985. The Department of Justice Research puts confidence in policing at just over 80%. Other independent research is even higher, pushing up towards 90%. We're not complacent, there's a way to go, but this is a truly remarkable achievement given where we have come from, and something that is often missed in the negative, and sometimes negative, 24/7 news agenda. As the Chair has clearly and eloquently pointed out, it's the people who actually make change possible. The stories behind these confidence statistics are stories of bravery, of resilience, of hard work, of commitment, shown not only by police officers and police staff within PSNI, but also by the community and by partners who work with us. The results can be seen every day. In the 24 hours, for example, leading up to this event, officers have responded to over 1,700 calls for service. 90 of those incidents have been involved directly with vulnerable young people. 87 have centred around a concern for the safety of one or more members of the community. Over 130 of these calls for assistance, a member of the public was hurt or injured, and 120 of our officers have provided mutual assistance to our fellow emergency services through collaborative working. So as we take time this evening to reflect and refocus, I'd like to take the opportunity actually to say thank you to the police officers and police staff who work in this organisation, the Police Service of Northern Ireland. I'm so proud of all that has been achieved and of the commitment that they demonstrate over the last 15 years, but today and yesterday and in the past week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working to keep people safe. They continue to do their jobs, you see, while a small but dangerous number of individuals and groups are actively planning to attack them and colleagues in the prison service. The often untold story of their professionalism and bravery that they display in this most challenging and at times dangerous of circumstances really inspires me. It is an example to me how they just get on with it. But we've come a long way in these building blocks of human rights and accountability. I also want to mention the issue of representativeness, because that has been an important part of our journey over the last 15 years. For a police service anywhere in the world to expect to have confidence and consent, it must at least seek to be representative of the community that it serves, in terms of gender, ethnicity, community background, all of the strands of diversity. The Patten Commission saw community background as crucial to the new policing arrangements. The 50-50 legislation ended when PSNI reached the Patten target of 30% Catholic officers in 2011. But our journey on representativeness is far from over. Like all other police services, the PSNI still faces challenges in achieving a service that is truly representative of the community. Women, young people and members of the Catholic community continue to be underrepresented in this organisation that I lead, and I take that responsibility for representativeness very seriously. I'm committed to doing all that I can to resolve these challenges. We recently commissioned some research to get a better understanding of the barriers to recruitment, and we will be discussing the results of that with the Policing Board in the weeks ahead. While confidence ratings in PSNI at over 80% and climbing are good, we are by no means complacent. We know that there are communities in which trust in policing remains some way off. By far and away, the greatest erosion of confidence in policing relates to a series of well-known but unresolved and very frustrating post-conflict issues. Dealing with the past, parades and protests, flags, identity, symbols. In the absence of an alternative political and societal resolution to these issues continue to be left at the door of policing and the broader criminal justice system. They sap the community confidence and they drain budgets. What does that look like? Sometimes it's seen as police refusal to disclose information, or failure to take down a flag, or using too many or too few police officers when policing a Parades Commission determination. It is, more often than not, the perception rather than the reality of the police response that has such a significant impact on confidence in policing in some communities. I accept that I need to work hard at addressing perceptions of policing. Accountability, openness and transparency around our decision-making become all the more important in responding under these challenging circumstances. 15 years on from the formation of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, our commitment to winning community confidence is as strong as ever. But there is a growing sense now that no matter how hard policing works at winning hearts and minds in these hard-to-reach communities, further sustainable progress on policing will be dependent on further political and societal progress. I am an optimist, and I see many reasons for hope. The recent resolution, for example, to the Tweddell protest, and it's good to see the Reverend Harold Good here this evening, and Jim Roddy, of course, who made a massive contribution to facilitating communities to that resolution. But we've had the resolution to the Tweddell protest. We've had 3 relatively peaceful summers. That proves what is possible when good, sensitive policing creates the space for others in community and civic leadership, like Harold and Jim and community leaders in Tweddell and in Ardoyne, to reach solutions. Work also continues regarding the past, the Historical Investigations Unit, the other mechanisms for dealing with the past, which were laid out in the Fresh Start Agreement. So there is signs of optimism as we refocus towards the future. But it would be a huge mistake, and I say this with executive ministers present, it would be a huge mistake to stall progress on these proposals, a mistake that neither policing nor society can afford. And I don't use the word afford lightly. The challenges to the police budget are well known. Perhaps less well known or understood are the changes in crime and the changing nature of crime and demand that the Chair has referred to. But in responding to all of these challenges with less money and less people, we will continue to deliver significant change to our operating model, to how policing is delivered, and that needs to be done in collaboration with other agencies, with the voluntary sector and with community. We will address, no doubt, many of those issues and opportunities throughout the rest of today and tomorrow. But as I sit down, the journey that we have been on, and the progress that we have made over the last 15 years should give us real confidence for the future. It does for me, at least. I remain enormously optimistic about what can be achieved when police, community, partners all work together. It takes leadership and bravery and a bit of risk-taking from us all. But anything is possible when there is a complete shared commitment to work together to build a safe, confident and peaceful society. Thank you.